Rahul is my contemporary from AIMS, so he has the advantage of pulling my leg a bit, but that's okay. Now we will drive BMW and Mercedes in reverse gear because सवाल यहाँ पर ये है कि अगर हम बीमारी ना पड़े तो कैसा रहे, right? So importance of diet and physical activity, इसके बारे में हम सब लोगों को सब कुछ पता है, लेकिन we need revisions. We need revisions because we tend to forget, and it is always good to reinforce with evidence. So we are what we eat. So this is Time magazine's cover page. What is this happening? Oh. Okay, so we are what we eat, and so there has been a lot of discussions on Time magazines that what to eat, what not to eat, is there anything which is safe, which is not safe, etc. Should we go organic or local is okay, good? And what to eat now? There is a lot of debate. And if we were to discuss this topic at length, perhaps we can finish the evening and we will not reach any conclusion. So the general recommendation, this is picked up from the American Cancer Society. A healthy eating pattern is food with high in nutrients in amount that help to achieve and maintain a good body weight, a variety of vegetables, dark green, red, orange. Simply put, sab color ki dale, sab color ke fruits. Whole fruits is better than juices. इंडिया में बड़ा चलन है जूस जरूर पिलाना है. पेशेंट जैसे आता है, सर हम इनको पॉमीग्रेनेट और गाजर का जूस तो दे ही रहे हैं, आगे क्या करना है आप बता दो, राइट? मतलब ये तो बेसलाइन है, मतलब ये तो होना ही चाहिए. नारियल पानी जरूर दे रहे हैं. किसी भी अस्पताल के बाहर आपको अनार की रेडी और एक कोकोनट की रेडी जरूर मिल जाएगी. खैर nonetheless, whole fruit is better unless until there is some evidence of GI obstruction in cancer patient, but this is for prevention. Fruits, whole grains. Healthy eating pattern limits does not include red and processed meats, sugar sweetened beverages, highly processed foods and refined grains. Of course, ये सारी चीज़ें हमें already पता है. Let's look at what does the scientific report of 2015 Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee says. Diet rich in plant and foods and lower in animal products and refined carbohydrates are associated with lower risk of postmenopausal breast cancer and colorectal cancer. The WCRF and AICR, which is the World Cancer Research Fund and American Institute of Cancer Research, concluded that Mediterranean diet is convincingly associated with a lower risk of weight gain, overweight, obesity, whereas Western type of dietary pattern, which is now very prevalent in our malls and everywhere, that it is definitely associated or probably associated with an increased risk of obesity. So this is one randomized control trial which has happened, which showed that breast cancer risk and cardiovascular risk is lowered by taking Mediterranean diet. How does this help? It helps by lowering the inflammation, the level of inflammation in the body, improved insulin response and decrease in insulin-like growth factors which are released by taking heavy diet or fat-rich diet, lessens the oxidative DNA damage, and higher concentration of beneficial gut bacteria. There's a lot of studies now going on gut bacteria and microflora, which prevails in the gut, which can produce some anti-cancer hormones and chemicals in the body which can prevent cancer. With these metabolic and microbiological markers, the cancer risk can be reduced. Now, vegetables and fruits. We all know that vegetables and fruits are good. Is there any evidence? So these are two studies which have been published: plasma carotenoids and vitamin C, tocopherols and retinol, and the risk of breast cancer in European prospective investigation into cancer and nutrition cohort. They concluded that results indicate that higher percentage plasma concentration of beta carotene and alpha carotene was associated with lower breast cancer risk, especially ER negative tumors. Another study of plasma carotenoids and risk of breast cancer over 20 years follow-up showed that in large prospective analysis, 20 years of follow-up with women with high plasma carotenoids were at reduced breast cancer risk, particularly more aggressive ones. And of course, it's not easy to do a study on nutrition and cancer, but these are the evidences which are there. The American Cancer Society advises that consistency with the DGA, that the dietary guidelines which are available, which recommend that at least 2.5 to 3 cups of vegetables and 1.5 to 2 cups of fruits each day should be done depending on the energy requirements. Whole grain and dietary fibers. There's one study which was published in the Advances in Nutrition, Whole Grain Intake and Mortality from All Cancers, Cardiovascular Risk, and etc. And this meta-analysis showed that whole grain resulted into almost 5% decrease in cancer mortality. So whole grains are rich in phytochemicals, dietary fibers. It helps in modification of fatty acid productions, lowered the pro-inflammatory bacteria species, accelerate gut transit time so that the contact time of various carcinogen with the gut is decreased, and hence colorectal cancers can be decreased. The 2015 DGA recommends consuming at least one half of the grains should be whole grains. Thankfully, in the Indian diet, it is mostly whole grains, but the diet patterns are changing very rapidly, and that is the reason that colorectal cancer in India is much lesser than what we see in the Western population. Coming to red meat and processed meat, the potential biological mechanism is that consumption of red meat increases nitrate and nitrites processed in the meat. There is also oxidative DNA damage from the formation of nitrosamines in the gut, which is catalyzed by the heme iron. And there is also increased amount of heterocyclic aromatic amines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which are processed in the meat when it is grilled. The risk of colon cancer increases by 23% with additional serving, that is almost 2 ounces of processed meat, and 22% by 3 ounces serving of red meat. Unfortunately, the evidence in randomized controlled trials is not very strong, so the ACS does not really recommend any safe level of consumption. But this is a study which was published in Lancet Oncology that carcinogenicity of consumption of red meat and processed meat showed that made it compulsory for IARC, that is International Academy of Research on Cancer, to label red meat as a probable group 2A carcinogen to humans. Added sugar, the 2015 DGA recommends that calories through sugar should be less than 10% of the total calories that we take. So we have to make our choices very carefully. Sweetened sugar beverages are not good for health and they should be limited in quantity. I'm not saying that one should not have it at any time, but then try to limit. Highly processed foods, which have become the ready-to-eat food or the ready-to-heat foods, snack foods, sugars, or sugar-sweetened beverages, they're highly palatable foods. But in this very study, the degree of food processing and convenience linked with nutritional quality of food purchased by the US household, this was a population-based study. They find that these foods have high on saturated fats, sugars, sodium content, but they could not really find any direct link with cancer or cancer incidence. But then they say that the 2018, the same report recommends that we should limit the consumption of fast foods. Calcium and vitamin D has said to be protective for cancer. And the dietary recommendations for daily calcium intake is 1,000 to 1,200 milligram. And because the dairy foods actually decrease certain cancers, like colorectal cancer is decreased, whereas prostate cancer is increased, the American Cancer Society does not make any specific recommendation about dietary intake. Laboratory and observation studies indicate that there is definite role, on the other hand, that vitamin D has role in prevention of cancer. To date, they could not establish a proven rule of cancer-lowering risk of vitamin D. This was a very large study called as the VITAL study, which was published in New England Journal of Medicine. Vitamin D supplementation and prevention of cancer and cardiovascular diseases. They did not find that the cancer incidence decreased with vitamin D supplementation, but they did find that the hazard ratio for all-cause cancer mortality in cancer patient was 0.75. That is, it was statistically significant. That means those patients who were replete with vitamin D had lower all-cause mortality in cancer patients. So there is definitely some role of immunomodulatory effect of vitamin D, and we know this because when you talk to your colleagues in respiratory medicine, they say that vitamin D deficiency can trigger asthma, and vitamin D deficiencies can trigger a lot of other problems. There was also some reports during the COVID times that vitamin D deficient patients had more serious outcomes of COVID as compared to those who were vitamin D replete. Dietary supplements, many people talk about dietary supplements, whether they should take or not. There is no consensus. These are two studies which I found, multivitamins in the prevention of cancer in men. It was a phase 2 randomized controlled trial, and it showed that daily vitamin supplements modestly but significantly reduce the risk of total cancers. Another study called as the SUV MAX study is also showed that low-dose antioxidant supplements lower the total cancer incidence in men. However, there is also reports that extraordinary or or super doses of vitamins such as beta carotenes, vitamin A and E can increase the risk of some cancers. Therefore, the guidelines say that even if you were to take a dietary supplement, it should not exceed more than 100% of the daily allowances for those particular vitamins. So no super doses of vitamins should be had. Alcohol. Alcohol consumption is the third major modifiable cancer risk. It is associated with 7 cancers. 1987 IARC report says that, that it could lead to many cancers, and especially of the upper aerodigestive tract. In 2007, they again emerged with their new cancer risk of colorectal cancer and female cancers also, female breast cancer. Broadly speaking, the carcinogenic effects of ethanol found in alcoholic beverages leads to not only DNA and protein damage, oxidative stress, inhibition of DNA repair and cell death, increased cell proliferation, nutritional malabsorption, changes in DNA methylation, and for breast cancer, it also increases estrogen level. The American Cancer Society says that if somebody still chooses to drink, the safe limit for men is about 40 ml of hard drink per day, or 2 pints of beer, or 2 glasses of wine, and for a female it is just the half. That is about 20 to 30 ml of hard drink, or one glass of wine, or 1 pint of beer. Body weight and cancer risk. We know that many cancers are associated with more body weight, not only breast cancer, colon cancer, endometrial cancer, esophageal cancer, kidney cancer, liver cancer, ovarian, pancreas, stomach, thyroid, even multiple myeloma. Sir, I posed because he's a hematologist. Meningioma, male breast cancer, non-Hodgkin lymphoma, sir. Aggressive forms of prostate cancer, and cancers of mouth, throat, and voice box. So it's important to be physically active. Adults should get 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity exercise, or 75 to 150 minutes of vigorous intensity exercises a week. That means 30 minutes of running. What is moderate and what is vigorous, we will just explain. Children should get 1 hour of moderate to vigorous activity every day. Limit sedentary behavior such as sitting, lying down, watching TV. This level of activity has been shown to have clear benefits, not only lowering the risk of dying at an early age, but also lowering the chance of getting or dying from any certain type of cancer. Higher amounts of physical activity may be even better for lowering the cancer risk, but this is bare minimum. So what is moderate intensity exercise? Walking, dancing, leisure bicycling is moderate intensity. Running is vigorous intensity. So 30 minutes of running. Fast bicycling or weight training is vigorous intensity exercise. Aerobic dancing, martial arts is vigorous. Swimming is also vigorous. In sports, if you want to do some sports, badminton is moderate intensity, not vigorous intensity. So 1 hour of badminton. Or tennis. Downhill skiing is also moderate intensity. Soccer, basketball, single tennis, racquetball, cross-country skiing is vigorous intensity exercise. Home activities like digging, hauling, masonry, carpentry is vigorous intensity, but just mowing the lawn, green yard, garden maintenance is just moderate intensity exercise. Yoga is light to moderate intensity. So what I tell my patient is, if you are not able to run, then jog for 1 hour or run for half an hour. If you are not able to jog, then walk for 2 hours. Because as the intensity decreases, the duration increases. It is said that when combining different activities, 1 minute of vigorous activity is equal to 2 minutes of moderate activity, and is equal to 4 minutes of light activity. Limit the time spent sitting. What you can do to make yourself more useful, or make your time more useful, while watching TV, you can do cycling, you can do stationary bike, you can use stairs instead of elevators, you can walk or bike. Exercise at lunchtime with co-workers so that you have a partner to work out. Have some breaks in between, or even if it is a 15-minute break, go dancing with your spouse or friends. Plan active vacations and wear a pedometer. Not a bad idea. So last slide, what can, as industry or as large industries, what community services you can do is perhaps you can see if there is a food which is being served to a lot of workers. You can see what type of food is being served and how you can prevent cancers. Of course, there should be open gyms, which I think is something which activates people and they will love to do something at least on the gym. And you can reward. The fittest of the person in the team should get rewarded, because then the others are likely to take inspiration from them and try to remain fit, because prevention is more important than cure. An ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is again a record time finish.
Right, sir.
Right. Thank you very much. And I must say, he has pointed out, various important things at the summary level would be, gymming, exercise, the food we are having ourselves while we are at work, at clinics and so on. And also, while, we are, working out of, daycare centers and so on, in the factories or in the centers which are like, remotely placed, and could be something like, I remember, going back to Renukut, right? Which could be like, working out of centers where, you have a plant only, a thermal power plant and so on. So I think, food becomes important really. So let me ask you, Dr. Singhal, what is the, what do you have apart from this, how the occupational physicians who are based at the, public sector undertakings where large groups are there. So what could be essential as a guideline rather than, more of a suggestive thing? From your practice, what do you feel? What could reduce? Is it asbestos work? Could be anything. What do you think of? So lung cancers or anything?
So of course, we know that asbestos is directly linked with the incidence of lung cancer, and so that exposure should be reduced. But as far as the diet and physical activity is concerned, I think the physicians should promote good dietary intakes, and they should see what is available to their, if there is a canteen for large worker or for a large number of workers, then perhaps what is being cooked and how it is being cooked, and whether the food is being exposed to high energy or high heat. That also disrupts a lot of nutrients. So from that intent, and I think there should be a physical training program for everybody, and then, as I said, that there should be a reward for somebody who is more fit. He should be rewarded with more promotions.
Great. Yeah, that's an important point here. Great. Thank you very much. And my one last question from my co-chair.
Because if your workers are fit, then you ultimately spend less money. You can reward them that money if they are remaining fit.
That's right. That's like an HR thing. But then, now we have an eminent, co-chair I have with me, and so given the diabetes, Dr. Suman, you are always recommending good diets for people. So would it not be a conflict here with my speaker here, who says, you have been telling them good, and we find a lot of diabetics, early diabetics nowadays as well. So where you feel, still why we may have it? So, or any questions to the speaker?
And not really, sir. I think he's really clearly pointed out, natural things are really good actually. See, uncooked food are really good. In fact, we always say that, trying to eat more of vegetable, trying to eat more of fruits can really help out a lot of diabetics also. And in fact, we are really talking of, we call it as a Mediterranean diet, was rightly pointed out. Definitely, it's one of the important things in the diabetes. In fact, it has also been said of the microbiota. The gut biota is also matters a lot. In fact, that has to be really, kept in mind when we are trying to treat it across. Maybe make sure that, go across to the particular constraint. In the sense, suppose a person is from South India, whatever is taking normally, please allow him to do that. Don't restrict in all of things. But it has to be in a limited context. That's what we always point it out.
So that brings us to the end of this talk. Thank you very much, Dr. Singhal.